Antonette, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to dive into your story and your clothing line. It's so inspirational, and I need to be adding to my closet because they're just spot on aligned with my message and my entrepreneurial journey. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you and Trisha for introducing me to you, Trisha Myers. So thank you so much to both of you. I'm
Yeah, no,
excited.
I'm so honored to have a platform where I get to share stories like yours. So why don't you tell guests about your journey and starting your clothing line?
Well, always love being, I'll say this. I've always been passionate about inspiring and empowering others. It's kind of like something I knew I was called to do at a very young age because I loved everything inspirational. Like Stephen Covey was one of my greatest teachers, and I just absorbed it and I applied it in whatever profession I was in my life. So fast forward, when my daughter's a two-time cancer survivor, and during her first round of chemo, during her first battle,
Hmm.
I was talking to a friend. I stepped out of the room at the hospital and I was like, "Oh, Dave, I think we should just, like I want to do these inspirational t-shirts and we could raise money and for the charities and the causes." And he's like, "Antoinette, slow down." He's like, "We're going to do a lot of things. Just take care of Lauren." And I knew in that moment that I wanted to merge my passion for, because I love inspiration. So I'm always wearing inspirational t-shirts. I wear mine now, but before then I was wearing others. And so it's something that I love to constantly feed my soul with. And so I put that on. I knew that was an idea. And I didn't even know the organizations that were going to help us. I mean, we were literally in round one of her first battle. And so I put the thought aside, got her through the first battle. She was healing in 2018, and then she relapsed in 2019. So then we had to go through everything all over again. And those same organizations, plus Be the Match, which is now the National Marrow Donor Program, is used to Be the Match is where her life-saving donor came from. So after we went through her second battle and started healing from that, it was about 2021 when I decided I'm going to make this a reality and I'm going to give back to those organizations. And I'm going to give back to the number one person, which is God, because I'm blessed to have my daughter. So he's first and foremost. And then these organizations are um, also part of this journey. And we donate 25% of the proceeds from each sale to different organizations like Cal's Angels, one that helped my daughter with her computer that she had through college.
Hmm.
It's what she used for both battles and how she went through her college years.
Hmm.
And then during her second battle, they gave her a keyboard. They donated. So they're a wonderful organization. She
Hmm.
majored in music along with some other business and things like that. So this is my way to give back.
Yeah.
And I get to do what I love, which is
Right.
inspire people with empowering messages. So that's how it came about.
Right. And you have raised a significant amount of money. How much have you been able to give back to other organizations at this point?
We're I think I got to check on that, but like around 3,000. Um, so probably more because I have to adjust our website.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of donations,
Hmm.
product donations. So that's
Oh,
something
love
else that
that
we've done.
too.
With Northwestern, I've
Uh-huh.
donated t-shirts to the transplant department where my daughter actually had her stem cell transplant. So we get to, so those are other factors contributing to our volume
Mhm.
of donation.
Yeah, I just can't imagine having to go through that scenario one time, more or less two times. And, I just love how you're just kind of inspired to give back from that situation and not be, so many other people could have a different outlook on that. So, it sounds like you've always kind of been a more positive person, but is there anything that you do to kind of cultivate that, positivity and kind of looking at the inspirational side of things and also just the confidence to get through that.
Yes, yes. I have always, well, I've got really strong parents who
Yeah.
were entrepreneurs my entire
Uh-huh.
upbringing.
Uh-huh.
And so I have to say what I uh, attribute a lot of my inner resiliency to get
Hmm.
through two battles with my child and to make sure that, I was going to do everything in my power so that she could be here. Because she also had some other challenges, medical things that happened as a result. I mean, this kid is the epitome of resilience. I mean, she was septic, went into shock, all these things happened, and it's a miracle she's here. So, as I was saying, my parents, watching them, my whole upbringing, being these entrepreneurs who came here, became US citizens, um, it kind of like they taught me how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I have an expansive tolerance for being comfortable with being uncomfortable because of some of the things I had to go through in order to get through that.
Mhm.
And those were very dark years in our lives, and just there's a lot to it. But anyhow, so that was one thing is being comfortable with being uncomfortable
Mhm.
and practicing self-compassion. So,
Mhm.
I am a very positive person. I think, as I may have mentioned, and or may I have, maybe I haven't, from a very young age, I was always intrigued and with personal growth and
Mhm.
studying some of the greatest teachers. And so, no matter what profession I was in at the time, it was just something I was always drawn to. So, I inherited a lot of practices that built my inner resiliency. And when my kids were young, I would teach them about self compassion and how to be kind to yourself and how to have a positive inner dialogue, things that
Mhm.
fast forward going through something so difficult and dark and challenging and all those things helped. So it was like I was pulling from a reserve that I had built for years,
Mhm.
and I would always teach my kids to make deposits in their emotional bank account. So I love teaching people about emotional wealth because that's what I've been doing is building my emotional wealth. And during that time, I had to pull every ounce of what I had.
Mhm.
And so, you know, another thing is our t-shirts have messages that convey how to have that, invincible mindset. I'm wearing that today.
Love that.
Mindset is everything. I mean, that helped me get through those times too. In the hospital, I would choose on a daily basis. I had to make a choice. What mindset am I going to have? What frame of mind am I going to be in to get through today? To help me find the strength to give my daughter strength, to feed her with strength and fuel. And some days it would be, I'm going to have a gratitude mindset. And every nurse that came in, every, CNA, whoever it was, the doctors, whoever, I would just be appreciative and thank them and extend my gratitude for what they do.
Mhm.
And honestly, it fed my soul, even when I didn't think I could find the strength. And that's, so mindset, I would say to people, definitely think about the mindset that you want that would serve you in whatever moments in life you're in, whether it's on a personal level, on a professional level. I, in my office, have all different mindset and sticky notes of different mindsets so I could choose, I remember during my son's senior year, he had a
Mhm.
football game, and I was in a meeting, and I had heard someone mention an anticipatory mindset. And I was like, oh my God, I love that mindset. I never thought about it. So I texted my son because it would be Friday night football. And I sent him, I don't know, something about having an anticipatory mindset. He got an interception during that game. We're a big football family. So I was like, we were just so excited. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if that influenced his mindset because he had to anticipate the play in order
Mhm.
to, intercept or whatever. I don't know the language, but
Yeah.
anyway, it was exciting. My husband and I were screaming like crazy. So, yes,
No,
but
I'm not a huge football fan, but I know an interception is a big deal. So,
I know,
I mean, I
I
know
know.
that much. I
Me
love
too.
that. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I have to say, I've interviewed over 100 people at this point, and we've talked about things individually, like happiness, for instance. We've talked about cultivating a positive mindset. We've talked about different things, but never like an individual intention to have a certain mindset. So can you give us some examples of maybe some of the few that you like call upon? Because I am really intrigued by this idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're to my right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're right here looking, staring at me. Sometimes like I think of my daughter, she had an undefeatable mindset. So, so sometimes that's what and I would tell her, I said, Lauren, because it was hard for her to sometimes stay positive, especially with what she was going through. And even during the healing journey, and even till today, I think we all kind of struggle with some type of mental health, staying positive, staying in that frame of mind. So I write a whole bunch of them. I mean, I've got compassionate mindset, growth mindset, patient. That one helps me get through. My parents are older and I'm very blessed to still have both my parents. And so sometimes I have to inherit a patient mindset to remind me how blessed I am and to help because this is part of our job as we get older is now we're helping our parents who helped us and it's just a cycle of life. So I'll use that and I'll pull from that and think, okay, I need that mindset right now. I need to be patient and I need to be grateful, great
Mhm.
gratitude mindset. So those are just a few that, but like I said, I'm somebody who, and oh gosh, I have this, I want to share with you that it's on my desk because it speaks to mindset. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. And that is a quote from Buddha. And so I literally feed myself on a daily basis with positivity, inspiration. It's how I get through things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thoughts become things. So if we want to change our reality, we have to change our thoughts.
Yes.
And we have to be very intentional about it. And I have read and listened to so many, personal development speakers and materials, and I've never kind of heard this way of intentionally selecting a certain mindset that you want to have in a certain moment, and I think that that's really powerful. So thank you
Oh,
for sharing that.
oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
re-
thank you for acknowledging that. I didn't think of it. It's my practice, so I didn't think like anything of it because I think that's
no,
just normal for.
that is
Um,
actually really powerful because I think
yeah.
just quote unquote being positive, like that is too generic and not something that you can kind of grasp.
Mm.
And as somebody who studies energy, like
Oh.
words in themselves can have an energetic frequency. And so I think, you know, charging an intentional mindset with a certain word that carries a certain frequency, like maybe there's a certainty mindset that you can have when you want
Mm.
to achieve something. And that has, I mean, I just think that that's very powerful. So thanks for
Wow. So
sharing
wait,
that.
do you mind if I ask Angela, you said
Yeah,
so you studied my energy?
yeah, I'm a Reiki
Oh,
practitioner. Yeah.
I love the practice. See, well, during both of my daughter's battles, I'm telling you, there was nothing I wasn't going to do in this world. And so
Mhm.
that was probably the first time we experienced Reiki, first time for her, first time
Oh,
for
wow.
myself
Mhm.
to get through that. So I believe in it. And
Yeah.
now it's an ongoing
Oh, that's
commitment and
wonderful.
practice. Oh, I
Yeah.
wish I lived by you.
I know. Once upon a time we did because, I used to
Oh,
live
yeah,
in the
that's
Chicago
right.
area.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But
Oh,
you can actually do distance Reiki as well.
you
I
could?
don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah, because
No.
I only do distance Reiki. Yes, it's just as powerful.
Oh, I thought you had, oh, you don't have to physically be.
No.
Oh, we'll talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll definitely talk more about that. But that's why I don't know. It's like when you said those words with an intentional mindset, I mean, that is just powerful. So, thanks so much for sharing that. And so I love what I love about your story too is sometimes I work with and talk with moms who think that being an entrepreneur and being mom are two separate things and they're supposed to
Mhm.
exist in these two separate areas of their life and they don't understand why it's not working and why they're feeling stressed. And I really love how your motherhood experience has kind of fed your entrepreneurial journey. So, can you just talk about that and just maybe explore how being a mom has inspired you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. Um, well, it hasn't always been easy, and now my kids are adults, but I still have to balance motherhood
Absolutely.
with entrepreneurship. And I know that I model behavior for them. I'm my daughter's greatest role model, and I think I'm still a role model for my son. And so I think that how they influenced each other when they were younger. Here's an example. So I'm also a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker for 22 and a half years. And there was a point in time where, I had to learn still how to balance when they were younger. And real estate is a completely 100% commission based self generated income. So it's not an easy one, but it allowed me the personal freedom to raise my kids, which is why I chose it. So I knew that I wanted to be the lunch mom and I wanted to pick them up and drop them off from school. And I had to think what will allow me to do that and still contribute to our household. And so that then came about real estate and I got into it and I'm still here in it. Um, and I remember there was a point where, the housing crisis and the market shifts and there were challenges and my income wasn't there. And I thought, oh, I'm just tired and I'm struggling and I'm exhausted from this. But then I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I need to redefine why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's where I had written a blog years ago about the power of re. And I love re. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to redefine why am I doing this? And it was my kids. I mean, I wanted to keep them in a faith-based school. I wanted to be the mom that was emotionally present when they did come home from school or even just on a daily basis when they needed me. I wanted to be, or at their games or their functions. I didn't want to just be present. I wanted to be emotionally present. And so being a mom taught me things that helped me in my professional life. You know what I mean? Because that's also who I am with clients and things like that. And so that was a pivotal moment when I redefined what success in real estate meant to me. I was able to, I mean, I think I had one of my best years, not the best because that came later in 2022, but it was a strong year for me in real estate. And I was like, wow, just shifting that perspective, shifting your mindset. And that I think is how I've always kind of merged the two. I think I'm answering your
Mhm.
question.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, there's no right or wrong question because I think it's so beautiful. And I think entrepreneurship is a beautiful marriage when motherhood kind of defines those boundaries. And
yes.
that's where it kind of works the most. Like you're very intentional, whether you realize it or not, about what it is your priority. And so whether it's your mindset or your motherhood or giving back, you're just like, this is what I'm doing. And when you're decisive in that way, which I think your story demonstrates, that's when everything else falls into place. And we so
Mm,
often put the cart before the horse. We do all the strategy. We're like, why is this not working? Well, where's your mindset? Well, where's your
mm,
clarity on your decision and what you want to do? And so I think that it's very similar to my story. Like working a 9 to 5 was not an option. It just didn't allow me
mm,
to be the mom that I wanted to be,
ah,
So I figured it out.
Yes.
And the
Wow.
opportunities come, or you create your own opportunities. And so I just think, I'm sure that there is somebody listening to this that needs to hear that, because I needed to hear it at one point, because we're the outliers. So many people are just kind of on that unconscious treadmill of like, well, I
Mhm.
have to work the 9 to 5 and fit
Yes.
in motherhood in the margins. I think when we do the reverse, if that's what you're called to do, it can absolutely work out and you can have great impact. You can earn an income, and we don't have to put motherhood on the margins. So I love
I love
that.
what you said. You're right. You find a way.
Mm-hmm.
You
You do.
find a way.
You
And I think that goes to everything. And I thank you for your podcast. I mean, I know that, well, we may talk about this at some point, but it's just such a wealth of information and knowledge and wisdom and insight to help continue navigating the entrepreneurial mom, the mompreneur. So, I mean, that's why you're called that. But I mean, it really is.
yeah.
That's like, I can't absorb enough what others have shared on your podcast. So I love it. Thank you. And God bless you for the great work, because
I appreciate
it's helping me. I wish I had it sooner, but I'm glad I have it now.
Yeah, well, the universe has this really amazing way of delivering things that we need it just when we need it. And,
You're right.
it's, yeah, those little gifts in our life's journey are just so amazing. So I love to kind of give advice to those early mompreneurs who are just starting out. And so do you have any advice for those listening who are just trying to figure
Yes.
out, as new entrepreneurs, what the landscape looks like, balancing, or, well, there's really no balance, but
I
kind of
think
trying to manage motherhood and entrepreneurship?
you mentioned one thing. I think, boundaries are so important. I had to learn that early on. Um, especially with real estate as a profession, because it's a 24/7 business, or it can be. And so I wasn't always strong with that. So I think boundaries definitely, and that doesn't apply just professionally, it also applies personally with
Sure.
friends, family, things like that. So that is huge. Once I started to realize that having those boundaries was respecting myself,
Hmm.
and so that was huge. I'd say for new moms trying to navigate both motherhood and that. The other is building and nurturing relationships. Honestly, community is huge. And whether it's community to support you professionally or it's personally, I met some of the greatest moms by networking and just being able to relate and understand the struggles of trying to juggle both,
Hmm.
and then helping each other. Like I'm an advocate of promoting and encouraging. Like, I'm going to tell everybody. I've already told women about your podcast, but I'm going to continue to tell everybody. But that's how we support each other. That's how we build a community.
Yeah.
And so that's really important, because it's easy to get to isolate. I mean, I went through those moments myself where I was real good about building and nurturing my relationships and building community. And then, depending on where I was at in life in that particular time, I found myself just isolating and losing that. So, staying committed to that practice of having those relationships and honoring them,
Hmm.
it will help you. I think that self care, that's another thing that I would, it was inconsistent, and I had to make that a committed practice.
Hmm.
So that was something that it helped me mentally stay on point, with just being able to be the best version of myself as a mother, as a professional, as a wife, as a friend, as a daughter.
Hmm.
So, because I wasn't always strong at staying committed to it. I mean, I always knew I was always practicing some form of self care, but it would go in and out. And that's where the inconsistency, it's like, no, I have to choose me in order to be the best version of me.
Hmm.
If that,
Yeah.
so I think that because when you're a young mom or newer mom, you tend to, you know, you're taking care, especially when your kids are young. I mean, it's easier for me to say now my kids are adults, but you know, when they're young, it's so hard to make that time for yourself, whatever that looks like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether it's physical fitness, reading a book, taking a walk, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's huge. I would give them that advice.
Yeah. I think that's just really solid advice for anybody who's an entrepreneur at any stage, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as moms, we need that reminder so much because there's so much constantly kind of trying to call upon our time and our energy, and it doesn't change. And I love that you mentioned that. I even have people say to me, well, can I even be on your podcast? My kids are grown. You're always a mom.
Oh,
You're always a mom. It doesn't matter how old your kids are. They don't need to be toddlers to be considered a mompreneur or in school, or you never lose that, and you never lose that connection with your children and wanting to serve them. And you know, it's yeah, so I love that you mentioned that.
and yes, and I love that you brought it up because honestly, even though my kids are, you know, Lauren's 25 and Brandon's 21, it's like here I'm going to family weekend this weekend, but we're even when he was home all summer, it's like when he would come in my office and have a moment, I'm like, okay, stop what I'm doing. You know, I had to kind of put a boundary there too, because it was like, oh mom, you know, and I love the relationship we have because my kids feel comfortable to share things with me and you know, and that's why being emotionally present was always so important to me because I wanted to have the relationship where they could come and tell me anything,
Mhm.
where they didn't have to feel alone or go through things alone, good, bad, otherwise. You know what I mean? And so that's huge. You're right. Our job as a mother, I'm going to always be there. There's different phases of life,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
now whether they're falling in love, graduating, professional life, moving on, moving out, you're still going to be there
Yeah. 100%.
in
Yeah.
ways to guide them.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. So, talking
So,
about self-care, it's such a buzzword, but there are so many misconceptions about self-care, whether it's got to be complicated or it's got to be something that everybody else does. What do you do to kind of take care of yourself to help manage? You're a multi-passionate entrepreneur. You've
mhm,
got elderly parents. You
yeah.
do have a home to run and your children still. So what do you do for yourself to help manage that?
You know, the biggest thing that people don't think of, because it's easy for me to name all the things that you do think of, but I give myself grace. That's the number one thing. I give myself grace and I'm compassionate toward myself. So when I have a day where I don't feel as charged up and I don't feel like I could conquer the world,
Yeah.
I remind myself that's okay because I've already done X number of things that can carry me over to next year, and I've already accomplished enough. Do you know? And that mental reminder, that's huge because I
Mm.
think that we're always, you know what I mean? I know a lot of people do beat themselves up or they feel guilty. Like even when you talked about parenting, you know, my kids are older, but like when Lauren's having a day where she feels like I should be further, I should do this, I'm like, Lauren, do you realize what you've been through? Do you realize how far you've come in life? Hold on to that, embrace that, let that be enough. You know, so that's the number one thing that I do is give myself grace and that space to let myself feel what I'm feeling and not without guilt. And then the others are, you know, things like I love yoga. It's a huge practice. I love Reiki. I love massages. I love my reality shows. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
man, you
crazy,
gotta have
but
those guilty
honestly,
pleasures.
it's, you know, I love everything inspirational. So if it means I'm going to buy myself, you know, a book of quotes or whatever, and treat myself to, you know, I love going to the bookstore and pulling a bunch of books at Barnes and Nobles and just taking bits and pieces and just feeding my soul with everything. You know, obviously I love personal growth and self-development books and things like that. So that's kind of the section that I gravitate toward. But things like that. And then, you know, being with family. Like, I don't take for granted that I have my parents here. So I make time for that. And I know you're supposed to be about self-care, but that is self-care because I want to know that I was grateful for every, blessing that God gave me, that my parents are 81 and they're here and they're healthy and they might have their little challenges that I have to help them through, but overall I'm blessed. And so I don't take that for granted. And that's part of my self-care because to me, that's how you build self-love, you
Yeah.
know, by doing things that aren't always easy, aren't always convenient, but they're the deposit in your emotional bank account that I always taught my kids to make. So,
Yeah, and I think you can really tell when somebody is critical externally to the people around them, they're first critical to themselves. And so I think if you want to kind of be kinder to those around you, you have to start with yourself.
that's one of our t-shirts. That's one of our,
Yeah, really?
that
I
was
love that.
that was our first t-shirt. That was the first message that I designed, was be kind to yourself. And it's hanging in my living room wall. It's been a message for my children to remind them growing up. So yeah.
That's so awesome. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I know we're
Well,
running up a
thank you.
little
Thank you.
against time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, you're doing such incredible work and
Thank you.
just really sharing your passions. And what's
Thank
so important is that we so often get these little nudges that we're supposed to do things like create the clothing line you've created or whatnot, and we don't act upon them, and
Mm.
therefore we kind of stifle our impact, we stifle our fulfillment, we
Mm.
we're not listening to what it is we're supposed to do because we get all the mind drama gets in the way. So I love that you're giving us permission to do that just by continuing to pursue your passion. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And so what takeaway or takeaways would you like to leave with listeners?
I would say, choose a shiftable mindset. So shift it to whatever serves you in that moment, in that day, in that time. That's a huge one. Um, Make deposits in your emotional bank account. Think about building emotional wealth. I know we're always driven by financial, but emotional wealth, it's the reserve that you pull from when you need in life. So I think that would be another takeaway. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to. And don't forget the power of re. You can redefine, you can refuel, reboot, recharge. You could, sometimes we have to do that. It's like a birth to, actually, my daughter was reborn now that I'm saying that, because she has a second birthday. She does. Her stem cell transplant gave her a second chance at life. So we celebrate two birthdays. So yes, the power of re. I guess
That's
that's
so
it.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
You're
sharing your
welcome. Thank you.
story. I'm so glad we connected. It's just so humbling to, we get, like you said, it can be isolating. We can have no idea about the other people who are doing things that are just incredible that inspire us. So thank you for
Thank you.
inspiring
Well,
me and I'm
thank
sure
you.
inspiring listeners. I mean, I just really think it's incredible. So where
Well,
can listeners find out about you and the clothing line and yeah.
they can check out our website at www.alwayslovebeing.com. And by the way, Always Love Being I chose that when I thought of me, my daughter, and my son, Antonette, Lauren, and Brandon. So I took the initials from each of our first names, and then I said, what do I want the world to know? What do I want for the world? I want people to always love being who they are. So that's it. You could find us there. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Antoinette.
Thank
It's been
you.
wonderful talking
Um,
to you.
thank you. I appreciate you. Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Thank you.